When trying to describe a planet in a sign, we know that the planet is the what and the sign is the how. In this case, Mars is the planet placement in our birth chart that describes what gets us into action. What are our drives? In other words, what gets us up in the morning? Mars unrefined is raw physical energy. It can show our basic desires, and on one hand, it can describe the way we express our aggressions down to how we anger, because it is instinctual. But on the other hand, Mars shows the expression of our sexual drives. In this Mars video, I will only be talking about the sexual side of Mars, the sexual feelings and techniques most comfortable to us. I think learning about one's Mars placement can not only literally explain how we approach sex, show what turns us on or off, but it can also give us a deeper look into our motivations in the context of relationships. If just learning astrology, I recommend first checking out the Mars meaning in astrology video I made first, which I'll link below. Understanding both the planet signification and the sign archetype at the core can have us better understand them working cohesively. Understanding the language on how we put two and two together is the fun part, and it's where the art of interpretation also lies. So let's get right into it, since Mars and Sag can be pretty impatient hearing other people talk, and I'm over here with the longest intro ever. But it'll get juicier as I break it down. So we take fiery masculine Mars, which is our drive and desire, and the sign of Sagittarius, which is a masculine, mutable fire sign. Now mind you, when we use masculine and feminine terms in astrology, both male and females can have these energies. This isn't gender based. I like to usually use more yin and yang terms, or just simply reminding people that when we say feminine, it is more to describe receptive, receiving energy as opposed to extroverted and putting out. Not literally putting out, although I guess in this video that applies too. But whatever. I don't like gender roles attached to either or, because distortions can come along with subscribing to one or the other. So Sag, being a fire sign, is extroverted energy that is creatively passionate. Mars in fire signs, therefore, are easily ignited. They are enthusiastic about activities. Sagittarius is the half human, half horse, and is represented by the centaur symbol of mythology, the learned healer whose higher intelligence forms a bridge between earth and heaven. This gives them strength of the mind and body. Their heads up in the clouds, but their bottom half is still a wild animal. So not only do they look and feel best when they are physically healthy, and when they exercise in the most literal Martian sense, this would also make them very active with natural athletic ability. So naturally, this also gives them with a high libido, a raw and untamed essence, but with the addition of loving to learn and be taught. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, that is connected with expansion, abundance, self-satisfaction, exploration, extravagance, prowess, higher learning. Let's think about the other elements for a second. A Mars in a mental element air sign such as Gemini needs that intellectual stimulation and connection prior to getting heated, right? And a Mars in watery Cancer, for example, needs emotional reassurance or a friendship having been established prior to feeling comfortable or turned on by another person. Mars in any of the fire signs wouldn't need that type of foreplay to feel driven towards a physical, pleasurable experience. Sex is a purely physical release, and they don't correlate it with love like other signs do. They don't get emotionally attached. What they have in common with air signs is that they appreciate intellectual stimulation, their half-human sociability. They want someone by which they feel they can expand their worldly nature and can take them on an adventure beyond anything they've experienced thus far. But what would differ Sag from the other two fire signs? Well, a Mars in Aries doesn't need perfect conditions to want to get it on. It's more impulsive and it just has a drive for instantaneous sexual fulfillment. And while Mars in Leo also revels in primal play, but takes an importance in the romantic novelty of arousal. Mars in Sag differs in that it is the overall setting that seems to form an importance to their arousal. Since Sagittarius is always seeking to expand their horizons and revel in new knowledge, which, as we know, is not something you'll get from staying at home. So their free-spirited, open, and explorative characteristics will lead them to see sex as a sport, having numerous affairs in their life. They can be seize the day types who may meet someone and go to bed with them minutes later. They're the types to have no hang-ups about first date sex and never judge their companion for it either. If anything, they'll have little patience with people beating around the bush. But that doesn't mean they're easy in any way. They're actually very, very picky. It's more like if Mars in Sag doesn't feel like they hit the lotto with said person, if it wasn't a love at first sight type of situation, then that person's not the right person in the first place. Because if anything, first date sex to them is used more as an evaluation tool to see if there's sexual chemistry for a potential relationship before going further. Because them viewing sex as a sport or exercise, they'll be seeing if this person can meet or exceed their sex drive. Because sex will be something of high importance in their life, they will have high expectations. Sagittarius is a transpersonal sign that is broad-minded, and keeping all those Jupiter traits in mind, anything they do is done on a grand scale. So the perfect setting with the right music, the right vibe influences their build-up to getting turned on. Without some of these elements being extraordinary, they could easily ignore or brush off someone pursuing them, or can easily get thrown off being in the mood, or just simply find it too boring to pursue it. The wrong gesture or word can throw them off and extinguish their superheated passion. Sag loves the idea of a spontaneous, unplanned encounter that seemed to have the perfect timing. This can make Sag a big party animal, jet-setting from one location to another. In their youth, they can be very promiscuous, wanting to try all the flavors and then decide for themselves which is their favorite. Similar to the mutable Gemini, this makes it hard to really ever pin one down. But that's no issue for them, because if they spot someone they're interested in, they have a strong focus in shooting their arrow and going after what they want. Sag is, after all, symbolized by the hunter. They have no fear of going after a person they find appealing, or at least making it very noticeable that they're interested. They are very sexually confident. And to put it as forward as they are, a new sexual experience can be like a drug to them, especially in their early years of self-exploration. To Mars and Sag, they have nothing to lose, really, and they don't fear rejection. As to them, there are plenty of fish in the sea. As a matter of fact, this can be assigned very well into dating apps such as Tinder. Apps like this make a perfect scenario for them, as they are able to really scan someone to their standards and feel no pressure having to hit the person up again or bump into them again if the date goes bad. They will usually be drawn towards dating strangers or foreigners, people not in their social group, never in their workplace, because Sagittarius is about the excitement of something new and unknown. Mars in Sag is the sign of erotic diversity. It's like, to them, settling with one person early on would be like only reading one book your whole life. And what a boring life would that be? They are here to learn new things, but as we soon will talk about, they're also here to master sexual technique through this. So, although one shouldn't go into a fling with a Sag expecting anything, they do go into every encounter with another person optimistic and idealistic about the possibilities. Their versatile nature sees the potential and good in whoever they're spending their time with. They're more than any other sign, I think, able to embrace and may often be turned on by people who are a whole lot different from them. Many dating a variety of types of guys from all walks of life. They're very adventurous and will try anything once. And so this goes for in bed too. So Mars in Sag is very lucky in attracting lovers because of their bubbly persona and promising look of a lively and enjoyable time full of fun and laughter. But keeping their attention might be the biggest struggle within themselves. Sagittarius can have a grass is always greener on the other side mentality. In most cases, sexual relationships can begin and end quickly or abruptly because that quickly ignited passion can attract but lead to disappointment just as quickly. Or they can run the risk of juggling more than a couple partners at once, then having to decide one or another. Jupiter, after all, can be excessive, having no boundaries or restrictions. They can become heartbreakers and not understand why others take sex so seriously. But gambling with sexual partners just because you feel it brings you more wisdom can really get you into trouble at one point or another. But this doesn't mean that they aren't capable of long-term committed relationships. When they commit, it's for life. They can have high ethical standards in this regard, but it's more so that they tend to hold off on it in fear of losing their freedom for the wrong person. They need to keep their options open. They're not like other signs that easily fall into relationships that can potentially be a waste of time just for security. Love is a gradual process for them because they're aware of the bigger picture. They understand that giving it time is essential to really seeing if that other person in question is someone they feel they can absolutely be sure they can grow with. They also understand that they are constantly evolving themselves and changing, and their thoughtful nature makes them aware their values might change tomorrow. But if you can keep their attention with deep philosophical conversations, wild, passionate sex, you might just have them hooked. See, part of Mars and Sag's quest for truth involves exploring the world of intimacy. This makes them one of the most open-minded Mars signs when it comes to sex, supplying them with extensive experience, which over time gives them with many sexual techniques and a thirst for more and more. Very sexual, very wild, uninhibited, and free. They don't mind leaving out foreplay and getting straight into it. But for Mars and Sag, life should be a prolonged state of foreplay. Naturally flirty, they'll be the ones secretly groping you at restaurants or public events. They will legit bang in a bathroom or in a bush if it meant getting digged down when they want. Having this erotic diversity can bring them to a point, even if unaware of this, that makes it so that they will become attracted to partners that can teach them new things. They will be turned on by people who are of a genius quality or worldly. This is also due to their mutable nature, this sort of hot for teacher mentality on it. They are turned on by someone who just confidently dominates them into a new kink. They are turned on by trying something new. If you have something new to bring to the table, something lights up in them. They will never say no when there's an offer for something new to try. They are open-minded and understanding that everyone can develop different fetishes. It tingles their sense of curiosity, and they won't be able to get it off their minds till they try it. They are open to trying anything new if there's any possibility of it bringing pleasure to them or their partner. They can embrace role reversal. So over time, they can develop very specific fetishes. They are the Mars sign with a tendency also towards bisexuality and threesomes or group play. The more the merrier. Mars and Sag truly sees no boundaries when it comes to pleasure, and they would hate to miss out on any opportunity of experiencing a new climax or gaining a new talent in bed. Let's remember how Sagittarius sees sex like a sport. Except to them, sex is a sport with no rules. Yet their competitive self wants to win at the game of sex. But the good thing is they see you as a part of their team, meaning they want to not only be the best for that particular person, they also want to learn the rules of your game and want to score the most epic goal. Okay, so having that this is my personal placement, I was really excited to be able to talk about this one, as I really think personal testimonies are always easier to interpret. One of the things I will admit to doing with past sexual partners that I think is so Mars and Sag is I'd have this urge and would literally reach and ask for a high five at the end of a session. As a Mars and Sag girl, I think we have the stamina and speed of a horse and want to go for as long as it's good. But I do think our ultimate goal is making a guy come. And after, we're usually not the ones who want to lay there and cuddle. Let's run for an ice cold cup of water, and I'm ready for another round in 10 minutes. And probably down to discuss what went down and talk about it and what we could try again or what we could do better. Mars and Sag has no sexual secrets. Sag is an honest sign, so they expect you to be upfront too. A turnoff is someone who sends mixed signals and waits for us to make the move. Someone with confidence in being affectionate is a turn on. Sagittarius rules the thighs, so not only can they keep running when tired, they're great for some experimental positions, such as strong thighs can sustain vigorous positions. Kissing the inside of their thighs will drive them crazy, as they are also turned on by the hip area, those V lines. Being that Sag is a sign of greatness, there is an exhibitionist side to this Mars placement. We love the idea of being a screen-worthy sex symbol. Now we gotta live up to the plate. Sex is showtime. They want it to have this sort of lighthearted feel to it with a hint of danger and spontaneity. They'd probably enjoy outside sex or having sex in other rooms that is not just a bedroom or not just on the bed. Mars and Sag's attitude towards sex can tend to be a bit scattered. Rambunctious might be the perfect word. Reverse cowgirl is probably a favorite for girls since she'd be able to have control while showcasing her assets, because they like anything that makes them reach new heights. Loud moaning and groaning is a real big turn on. Being a bit vain, they could also be into video recording. So Mars and Sag can get easily bored. So they have to be careful due to this, because with any long-term sexual relationship, sex will eventually reach a point where it's not new anymore. But it doesn't mean it can't be reignited or enjoyed at a deeper level. This running away when things get stale cycle that can play into their lives can be super detrimental to their happiness over the long run. So actually a great way for a Mars and Sag that wants to keep things spicy with their partners is to get into role-playing. With role-playing, one can pick up different characters in which one person can be like a foreigner and another belly dancer. Another great way to keep things interesting is to be traveling with their partners or anything where you can join them and their friends. It doesn't even have to be out of town, whether it's a concert, art gallery, rafting, hiking, a rave, anything with a common theme where it can be discussed after. Going to exotic places or simply just being around new environment automatically excites their senses. Something that they would maybe be opposed to, but that actually might serve them well, is practicing periods of abstinence and teasing too. Now, try to think about sex as an analogy of being a piece of cheesecake or ice cream or your favorite food. Now, say you have a piece of cake every day for a week. You'd probably get sick of it after a week. But let's say you hadn't had that specific cake in a long while, and say you really, really were craving this cake, and you took the time to really envision it and imagine it, but didn't let yourself touch it for a few days. by the time you let yourself have it, it would taste so good and you'd savor it and it'd water your tongue, probably 10 times better. Mars in Sagittarius motivates and inspires others into new approaches, and I think is one of the Mars signs that can really help sexually liberate a patriarchal society that has suppressed sexuality. Sag loathes judgmental restrictions. They desire to do what they please whenever they please. If you're easily offended, you're not the partner for them. Their philosophical interests will reach a point where they'll seek beyond that physical feedback only, though. Mars and Sag's real drive is for a spiritual connection. This is why they don't like to be fenced in. They're far more devoted to the quest for knowledge and experience than to any one partner. Sagittarius is always on an internal divine mission, some transpersonal collective truth they must share with the world, one that brings them and the world closer to ecstasy. And so ideally they'd respect someone on their own hero's journey too. But if you fell for Mars and Sag, then you'll understand that their stimulating, vibrant soul has only made them who they are from needing a lot of that time on their own to explore and do their own thing. If we love birds and find them beautiful as they fly, why would we want to keep them in a cage? But still, it's important for a Sag to also ask themselves if there is a part of you who tends to run away from any displays of emotion simply because you're uncomfortable facing your own. This placement can tend to avoid commitment for a long time unless they find a very wise, sexually mature, philosophical person. They might have to one day accept that they need partners that value freedom and independence like them. Earning each other's commitments and faithfulness, one can explore each other's hungry minds to taste and touch every food, every culture, every art and way of life and living, satiate every carnal and untamed desire, making life a great adventure. And sex with a Mars and Sag is the ultimate adventure of all.